I'd like to begin with addressing a question that's on everyone's mind. Where the hell is Ted? Where is he? We've been coming to his talks for years now, and he never shows up. He's less reliable than birth control for bunnies. Anyway, there's a strong probability that by the end of this talk, I will commit suicide. But you may be asking yourself, okay, but how will you do this? Well, of course, I'll cut my wrists. Don't be silly. I'll just go like this, vertical. You never go horizontal. But the more important question is, why would I do this? And reason number one, of course, is because I live in Bulgaria. And that just about sums it up. But I would like to walk you through my entire life just to show you how miserable it has been, and then you be the judge of whether I should kill myself or not. So, photographic evidence number one, that's my very first photo, yeah. It was taken a couple of days after I was born in Poland, and as you can see, I'm already depressed here. I'm already depressed. You can see that I'm wondering, why am I dressed like a mummy of a cat? Why am I wrapped around in, what is this, Gandhi's shawl? What's going on here? Were they celebrating Halloween in the hospital? And also, if I had only known that they would take a photo of me, I would have at least shaved, all right? So, and that's a true story. Another true story, when I was born, my umbilical cord was wrapped around my neck. I almost suffocated to death. So the doctors immediately knew that I wanted to commit suicide in my mother's belly because of the umbilical cord, and also because they found a suicide note in my hand. I wanted to make things clear. And soon afterwards, my parents decided to move to Bulgaria. Big mistake, I know. And so immediately I started drinking. Here's a rare glimpse into my alcoholic past. And it kind of helped me. It numbed me now to kind of feel a little better. And but the reason for that was that we were very poor. We were in fact so poor that, a true story again, for the first couple of months, my mom had to literally breastfeed me. Yeah. She cut her breast and she fed it to me. It was a true story. And we were also living in a village where there were a lot of gypsies. And I used to play with them because they were the only kids. There were kids with kids, which is kind of anatomically challenging, but it's true. And so it was funny because I had all these toys from Poland, and I would play with them, and then all of a sudden they would get aggressive and bite me and steal my toys and run away. But on a positive note, my grandma would sometimes shoot them. And or she would plant some traps in the garden for when they jump over the fence at night to steal some fruits. And I loved my grandma a lot. And I used to play with her. But she was a very lazy woman. Now, I know it's not a nice thing to say, but she's dead, so who cares? And she was so lazy, we used to play this game where she would lay down on the bed, and I would go into the garden to get some flowers, and I would place them on top of her and put 2 coins on her eyes. We used to call that funeral. And it was also very realistic because she was cold, and sometimes she would stink. And soon afterwards, I went to the kindergarten, and that was great, and I met a lot of kids there. I met my first girlfriend there. I still remember my first kiss in the kindergarten. I still remember the first time I had sex in the kindergarten. It was magical. We used toys. And just as things were getting better and better, my parents decided to move to the city so I can go to school. And you see, I was a very skinny kid, so they decided to sign me up for swimming classes. And you know, there's one thing I want to tell you. Swimming is not necessarily the manliest of sports, all right? If you see a bunch of guys wearing Speedos ready to jump in the water, it's not very manly. But there were a lot of girls there, so that motivated me to learn to hold my breath for longer. And if you know a thing or two about the swimming pools back then in Bulgaria, let me use this example. You know how in the Westerns you have these tumbleweeds that go across the street? Yeah, we used to have the same thing on the bottom of the pool, except made out of hairs and chewing gum. And for whatever reason, the pool was always halfway empty. So you could always write your name on the slimy tiles. It was so dirty that they would use so much detergent that I swear to you, there's been so much chlorine in that water, I will never, ever have to bleach my butthole, ever. It shines bright like a diamond. And I was also a big fan of music. And so naturally, I wanted to play an instrument. Now, long story short, I finally decided that that instrument would be the flute. Yeah, big mistake. Okay, so here I'm playing in a library, all right? I know what you're thinking. Shh, it's not the best place to play. But as you can see, my fans here in the audience, none of them told me anything because at their age they can't hear anything. So the problem with the flute was this. When you Google flute or you go to the dictionary, you see this image. Problem is, you see the same image when you Google gay version. It's true. And you know, playing the flute, especially in high school, that's a natural repellent. That's a camouflage against women. And you know, really, if you ever get chased down the street by an angry mob of feminists, just grab your flute, all right? That's the only solution, and also a very ironic wordplay. So as I mentioned, you know, I went to high school, and what happened was one beautiful day, I was sitting in my room and I hear a knock on the door. And I opened the door and there she was, puberty. And bam, she smacked me on the face. And you know what happens with puberty is crazy because you grow tall and your voice gets deep and you get that facial hair. And by the way, for boys, it's even worse. And I was, so what happens is, thank you. Applause break number 1. And what happened is you grow to look like an adult, but your brain still hasn't caught up with that, right? So you start doing crazy stuff, and I remember the kids in high school were running around and chasing each other, laughing, and they did a lot of drugs. Did a lot of cocaine in my school. But by the end of the year, it would be crazy because they would chase down teachers and beat them up, and sometimes they would tie them to a truck and drive around the school. I graduated basically Mad Max high school. And, but I was very different, you see. I was very sad, lonely, and emotional. And the reason for that was there was a girl that I had a crush on, and it's a very painful story still. And I will tell you about it in a second, but just to show you how pathetic my life was, I will actually use actual science to prove it to you. If you see here this two-dimensional coordinate plane where X stands for expectations and Y for reality, because it ends with Y, obviously. You would guess properly that if I were to be happy in high school, I should be in the top right corner. Unfortunately, for me, my reality in high school was very low. It was very low. It was lower than Donald Trump approval ratings, though, really low. And you know, if you take any event that happened to me, all of them, A, B, C, they're all negative. Whether it be a kid making fun of me or beating me up in the hallway, or I would, I don't know, write an exam and a zit will pop up on my face and go over the papers. All were negative events. And so naturally, I had a very low self-confidence, so my expectations are also negative. To be precise, between points E and D, on average right here. And as a matter of fact, if I were to take the most positive of reality events and connect it with my low expectations, you would end up with these 2 points. And let me circle them around for you so you can see better. And then if you take any random set of events and connect the dots, and I've tried this with all kinds of events, you always end up with this graph. And by the way, have I mentioned that if you're in the bottom left corner, you enter hell? All right, so this has been high school, and to tell you what the real reason for this was, as it's very emotional, I would actually prefer to sing about it in a song. Allow me to take my guitar. I didn't hear that. And I wish I did. So this is a song about, wow, I transported to a well somewhere. Okay, so this is a song about how, is this on? Yeah, I think so. About how unhappy I was in high school. It goes like this. Turn around and you will see a sweaty, fat, eyebrow guy. This is me. You may know that you and I, we're from the same class. Have you noticed that sometimes I would stare at your eyes? You're always late and often mad, but oh so sweet. Sometimes when you go home, I'll go and sniff your seat. I'll never forget that one day when you asked me for my homework and smiled. I ran straight back home that day and masturbated for a while. And ever since I follow you, I'll follow you, I'll follow you. Won't you follow me too? I'll follow you. I follow you all the way from school. I follow you all the way back to I follow you. You have a bolt through your tongue. Baby, you're dressed like a whore. In my wildest dreams, I wouldn't ask for more. You've slept with all the boys in school and half the chicks. You really have to see a doctor to get those hip bones fixed. Oh, I'll follow you, I'll follow you, I'll follow you. Won't you follow me too? I'll follow you. I follow you when I'm on my bike. I follow you when you take a hike. I follow you, oh man, I'm so brave. I follow you even to your grave. I'll dig you out and take you out of the casket, and I will clean you up and put you in a basket, and I will take you home and put you in my bed. Oh, you can follow that thread, but it's just a dream. Just the sweetest, sweetest dream. But nevertheless, it's just a dream, like I said earlier before. I don't want to repeat myself. Oh, the closest thing I would have to having sex are the faces I make while I play the solo next. I sound like a constipated baby. Oh, I sound like a punch-out lady. Ooh, even my hiccups sound sad. Listen, listen to this. Listen to this. Ooh. I wanna wake up. Thank you. I wake up. I wanna wake up so I can follow you, follow you, follow you, follow you, follow you, follow you. I'll follow you and I'll follow you, I'll follow you. Won't you follow me too? I'll follow you. I'll follow you and put my glasses too and draw a mustache with a pen. I hope it's legal then to follow you. Oh man, I'm sorry. I'll try that one more time. Okay, enough of this. Anyway. Oh, so there were people here. I didn't know that. Anyway, thank you. So this was why I was so sad. And on that positive note, I went to the university. Yes. And I graduated with an MBA, so I started business administration. And if you know anything about professors in Bulgarian universities, well, they're very experienced, or as I would put it, ancient. Right? I mean, they were so old, they actually remembered kings. Yes, they did. They were so old, they remember when the bull on Wall Street was a real bull, and you could buy it for 4 sheep. It's a true story. And so I would spend 5 years listening to these guys teach me all about these important things in the 17th century books that they wrote. And I would then somehow apply this to the modern economy so that I could use this combined knowledge in my new career, which was in a call center. Yeah, I started working in a call center, and I still have nightmares. I mean, even today, I sometimes end a phone call with, all right, man, I'll call you later. And, oh, if you have a second, please hold the line for a very short survey to describe your satisfaction with this call. Thank you, bye-bye then. This was my life there. And I know what you're thinking, guys. You're probably thinking, Bogi, why have you still not killed yourself? Is this what we paid for? This presentation sucks. But the truth is, you know, all the things that I told you, I make fun of them, but they're actually true. I mean, I was poor and I was lonely, and was struggling with depression most of my life. And it was precisely comedy that helped me pull through. And I didn't appreciate this until about a year ago when something really bad happened, because in a very short period of time, my mom was diagnosed with cancer. A couple of months later, she passed away. I was fired, and I was left with my dad who needed help. And immediately I was like, okay, that's it. I can never do comedy again. I can't, But then as time went by, I was even more depressed. I realized, well, in a way, that's the only thing that I can do. That's the only thing that can put a positive spin on events. And you may have heard the quote that comedy is tragedy plus time. Another quote, comedy is cheaper than therapy, was said by Robin Williams, who committed suicide after struggling for many years with, among other things, depression. So I'm not saying it was just comedy. It wasn't. It was also my family. It was my friends. It was my beautiful girlfriend, who I love so much, and she's helped me through this time. But the point that I'm having is, comedy gave me my own personal purpose and goal. And this is the idea that I want to spread with you. I'm not saying you should be comedians. No, you should not be comedians. There's enough competition as it is, please. What I'm saying is, as corny as it sounds, you should look for something that gives you that purpose if you're having these thoughts and you feel down. And if it is something as fun and as creative as comedy, then you'll be great. And you know what? If you fail, and if you still can't end your suffering, well, then you can always kill yourself, because after all, suicide tends to end most things. Thank you.